Sometimes when I do this show, I'm the interviewer. Other times when I do the show, I'm the interviewer and the interviewee. Well, I'm both today because I have a young man on this show. We're going to talk some about Black history and other important activities in the community. But not only is he going to be the interviewee today, I'm sure because of his experience in interviewing, he's going to be the interviewer. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and that young man is none other than my friend and compatriot and my senior, Mr. Herbert Denard. How you doing, brother?
I'm glad to be here. I don't know about the senior part.
It's so good to have you on the show. And one thing that I've noticed is Herbert has been very, very, very conscientious about the community for decades. I'm sure over 4. And even recently, very frequently, he posts stuff about individuals and activities in the community who have played a role in the development and the advancement of the community. And I noticed that he's putting a particular emphasis on it during Black History Month. But it's not limited to Black history. And I'm sure he's going to talk about it because we don't just need to pull out 4 weeks, 30 days, or 1 month, 27, 28 days, however many, to talk about, be concerned about it, be interested in African American history or whatever you want to call it. So I thought it would not be robbery, frankly, if I asked him to come in and talk about history. I mean, he goes way back. That relates to civil rights, because some of the people that you mentioned, like Reverend Malone and Booker Chambers and Mr. Randall, that's kind of way back. Mr. Billings, that we don't need to forget Albert, so just talk about your early experience as it relates to the development and the advancement of the Central Georgia community.
Let me say something, Mr. Alex C. Habersham. I returned from Vietnam in 1965. I was born in this area, born in Macon, but I left to live with my father. Mother and father divorced and everything. So I lived with my father. And I got married with him and joined the Marines. I found out very early in life that was not the best thing to happen. But while I was in the Marines, I had a guy that I was there reading news magazines, and I was doing all those kind of things that people do at that age. He said, look at the pictures, but let me give you something to read. He gave me James Baldwin. He gave me Ralph Ellison. He gave me Richard Wright. And I was reading those books. He just said, you waste your time. He said, you have an opportunity here to learn something about our history.
Absolutely.
And so I read all of those books. We was on a big cruise going to Taiwan and Japan. And so I had plenty of time to read. So I read all of those books, and I had a different perspective in things, learning our history. Well, then I got discharged from the Marine Corps after 4 years, served in Vietnam, and came back to Macon. And me and Jesse Williams, you know him? Bo.
Yeah, I know Bo.
Yeah, he and I was playing basketball on George Washington's birthday in 1968. And we were going back and forth, selling wolf tickets, how I'm going to drive on you, how I'm going to shoot you, how we going to win. And in the middle of it, it started raining. And we couldn't finish the game. So I said, Jesse, let's go and finish the game at the YMCA. He said, the YMCA, they don't let black folk in. I said, they gotta. He said, you gotta be a member. I said, I got a membership. I got a membership from when I was in Buffalo. I said, I got a membership. And I kept it up because I needed it as I went different. At the YMCA, you could go in and spend the night, right. Very cheap. Right. So I kept it. He said, we'll go, but I don't think so. So I went up there, and pulled out my membership card. And the guy said, you can't come in here because you got to be a member. The guy's name was G.A. MacArthur, I think. He was a senior and a junior. I flipped out my card. He went back in the back and he talked. He walked back to the front and said, this YMCA is for white people only. Now, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yes, sir.
I had been to Vietnam.
Fought for the country.
I was on the cook. I was on the truck driver. I was in infantry. And so I was shocked. You know, just bothered me that he said, you can't come in. And so I went home and I talked to my mama. You know, you might be grown. I was 21, 22 years old. But when things hit me very hard, I went and talked to my mama about it.
Yes, sir.
And she told me that it's not like it was in Buffalo. It's not like it was in the military. It's not like it was in some of the other places you've been. This YMCA do not let black folks in, and there's a lot of places like that in Macon. I said, but they have passed the '64 Civil Rights Bill. I read about it. The Voting Rights Act, Equal Employment Opportunity Laws. All of this was passed. He said, my mother said, it doesn't make no difference. You cannot go in the YMCA. He said, but there's a man in Macon that could probably steer you in the right direction. He's the Martin Luther King in Macon. I said, who is that? She said, Bill Randall. He's at our funeral home down there. And he works in civil rights. He's been involved in all these kind of things. And I met Mr. Randall.
Yes, sir.
And that's when I started to learn and going to mass meetings and going to operations and everything else. Make a long story short, Bert Bivens, Jesse Williams, myself, Reverend John Connor now.
Yeah.
We got together, it was 12 of us, mostly veterans. We went to the YMCA in 68, in April of 1968, and they locked all of us up, everybody up.
I want young people to hear this now. You remember what you were going to say, but I want to insert this.
Okay.
Because we got a real vacuum in our young community as it relates to people with certain behaviors, not realizing and acknowledging what had to happen for us to be free. So I want, if you got children or grandchildren or millennials, bring them to the TV because they all need to hear this story. Go ahead, man.
And
12 of y'all.
12 of us, we decided to go down and go to the YMCA anyway. We went in, they called the police. We would not leave, and they locked us up. Bill Hutchins, the funeral home guy,
yes, sir,
the director, he was all over the place. He was the funeral home to go to in that time. He bonded us out. We had already set it up. Bill Hutchins bonded us out of jail, and that goes into another thing about the historic nature of Bill Hutchins. He was out there making money in the funeral business, but he still was a part of the civil rights movement.
Yes, sir.
He wasn't out front, but he was there. And once we went in, we needed a lawyer. We got Tom Jackson.
Yes, sir.
You remember Tom Jackson? Judge Jackson.
Yes, sir.
And he went to court. And what we found out then, we paid money into United Givers Fund. Our jobs used to make it clear that we supposed to give our fair share. And you know who they got most of their money from?
United Giver Fund.
So we was giving, but we was not receiving. And so once that part hit the news and UGF was contacted, they gave the YMCA a choice. You could either let them in, or we're going to withdraw funds from you. The good white people in Macon said, we'll take care of you, YMCA. And so they cut off UGF funds.
Wow.
And the big car dealerships at the time, Lamar Pontiac, Huckabee Auto, Yeomans, it was not Yeomans, and Dunlap and all of those. Right. They put so much money in the first year or two to support the YMCA. But after a while, they got tired of that, and that went under. The new organization, they call it Young Children's Health Center or something like that.
Right.
But that's when I met some of the giants of the civil rights movement in Macon. And that goes back to Ozabelle McKay.
Yes, sir.
This was a lady that walked, never drove a car, all over the city. She sold Atlanta life insurance, where she would have to go around and pick up that money every week. And while she was picking it up, she was selling them membership card. Every
to the NAACP.
Yeah. And every time, every mass meeting that I attended, Isabel McKay was there. I mean, she was there. And then a couple of times I had a chance to listen to the greatest preacher I heard in this area, a guy named Van J. Malone. This guy, he could explain it so well. He didn't just go up there and start hollering and groaning and kicking up and falling down on the floor. I'm not talking about nobody. But he could explain the Bible to you. He could do it somewhat like Dr. King, the way he break it down. And you know, I had heard a lot of preachers preach, but I'd never heard anybody that could break it down like Reverend Van J. Malone.
Yes, sir.
And then I got a chance to meet a lot of other people. One of them living right now, Jacob Parker. He used to make the church available for mass meetings. So right now, a lot of churches are not available for a lot of things. But at that time, there was a lot of unity in the community. Then I met another guy who was pretty active in the community then. He was going to meetings and he was speaking, and he was a very good guy. His name was Reverend A.I. Havisham. You know?
Yeah, I know her. Yeah. Let me put a carol in what you just said. Because I think too often the role that the church played, and I'm saying this for a reason, and you know why I'm saying it. Mm-hmm. You know, the church played a major role.
Absolutely.
A major role. And that's one reason, young folk, why we are enjoying many of the freedoms that we are enjoying, because they had to have a place to meet. And then during the time, you didn't have that many independent businesses.
Right.
You know, you didn't have many locations or gyms or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So the place to meet, and then it was true for Dr. King too. Mm-hmm. I mean, the movement, the church played a major role in the movement, and I think, frankly, that it's incumbent upon the religious and the spiritual community. You know, I think that facet of our community can contribute significantly by being proactive with many of the things that need to happen in the ministry. And I want to talk about business too, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Right, but there was so many people that was involved. The lady where we were meeting at the building that we were meeting in,
Ruth Hartley Mosley.
She was a tremendous. The fascinating thing about her, and I don't know everything about her, but what I found out about her was that she was rich.
She was.
And the job she had was a nurse.
Yes, she was.
How does a nurse get rich? She bought or started one or the other, the funeral home, Central City Funeral Home. And she got a guy named Dick Hartley. She married. And they made that funeral home #1. And when black people was dying in those days like we die now, the place that everybody was going was not Hutchins. It was
Central City.
Central City Funeral Home.
Yeah, yeah.
And she really was some kind of a lady.
And
then when she died, she had so much money. That's what I say now. I didn't look at her bank account, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But she had so much money, she didn't have any children. So she made this endowment.
Right.
For this house we have right now. This was her house.
The one we in right now.
She set some money aside and said, before you do anything, she put Albert Billingsley and Dr. Johnson and Isabel McKay and 2 or 3 others, and they got this money and it built up interest. And so how it operates now, it's operating off the interest, and the money, the original amount of money, is still there.
Right.
And a smart thinking lady.
Yeah, she was very smart.
Yeah, so she was active in the civil rights movement. With all of this money that she had acquired, she used it to try to open doors for people to get nursing degrees and lots of other things, even after she has left here.
Yes.
She was a special lady.
Absolutely,
Right.
very, very, very special. Well, as I said, and that's why I'm the interviewee, because Doc Nard here, as I call him, got a rich, rich history. We're back. This is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Habersham, interviewing my good friend and friend of the community, Mr. Herbert Nard, and of course he's the former publisher of the Georgia Informer. So he has a vast record and a rich history of being involved in the community, and we one thing we would disagreed on a lot of things, and not too many, but he and I both served on the Board of Tax Assessors for quite a few years. But Herbert has a history of being involved in the community and trying to initiate projects and programs that's going to move the community forward. And one of the things, Herbert, that bothers me is that I realize it and you realize it, that we're standing on somebody's shoulders.
Absolutely.
Somebody had to really, and there was a lot involved in the civil rights movement. Now I want to tell my story very quickly. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Tindall Heights. And the bus that ran in Tindall Heights was the Plant Street bus. Mm-hmm. My mama and I were on the Plant Street bus on Plant Street. And so we sat about halfway the bus. And then this white fella got on the bus and looked at my mama. Now, it's plenty seats up front. But, he looked at my mama. My mama grabs my hand and moves me all the way to the back of the bus, man. And I shall never forget the strain and the drain. Because I'm looking up at my mama like this. What's she going to say to me? How she's going to explain that to me. So the mere fact that all of these people that you mentioned, and we're going to mention some more, played a role in these young people not having to experience that same thing, suggests that, that we all need to be involved, and that everybody needs to be concerned, and a lot of them can't even imagine not being able to drink from a water fountain. When I was at Ballard Hudson, we used to get books and open the books. Guess what the book said?
Had Lanier
High School.
Right.
The
school was segregated, and when white people students got new books, we got the old books, and the name still was there.
Lanier High School.
It's a lot of things that
change. A lot of things. But what we want to do now, if you would, we want to mention a couple other people, and then the thing about it, let me say this quickly. We can't name everybody, but everybody ought to be concerned enough to go to Washington Memorial. I bet you they've got a lot of information up there about the rich history of the trailblazers back in the 60s and 70s and 50s and 40s. Out of Central Georgia, but you want to mention a couple more. And then lastly, Herbert, what I want you to do is make an appeal to the entire community to use this show and this month as a catalyst to improve the community educationally, socially, politically, economically, culturally, and every other kind of way. Because if we were to come together, take advantage of our history, then I think we can move it significantly forward.
One of the names I just got to pass, I mentioned Albert Billingsley, a contractor, and he contributed a lot behind the door, closed doors. He focused mostly on him making money, but he also helped pull other people up. Frank Johnson.
He put me on the tax assessor board.
That's right. and Frank Johnson. Frank Johnson, you got a recreation center named after him in Unionville. But Frank, anytime we was involved in something, we needed somebody to march, Frank was there. And Frank had served in the Marines.
Oh, yeah.
And when he got out of the Marines, he came back to Macon and got involved. J.L. Key, he was another one. Booker Chambers, he was another one. I mean, there's so many, and I'm going to just bring contemporary. Billy Young.
Oh, yeah.
A singer that had recorded with Phil Walden and Otis Redding. And he ended up singing songs in Macon and going around teaching children history.
And his son, there was a boy, a Georgia boy, named Martin Luther King.
He was very talented. We had a lot of people that's contributed a lot. But one of the things I think that was a detriment to black people, and I'm off the chain now, the music that we started playing on the radio, and the theaters, the movies that we watched in the theaters. Back then, you know, it became cool to dress a certain way and to deal with women a certain way. The Superflies, the Shafts, the Slaughters. See, for a long time, black people could not go to a movie where black folks was the hero.
Right.
So along come Superfly. He's cool. And he beats up
You got the Cadillac.
black man. He got the Cadillac. It looked like a Rolls Royce in the front. And he was cool. He cussed white folks out. He cussed black folks out. And then you had Shaft.
Yeah.
All of these would do this, the Slaughter. All of them the same thing. And they put nice music in the background. Curtis Mayfield singing Superfly, Pusher Man.
Yeah.
Isaac Hayes doing it.
Shaft.
So it kind of changed the direction. Man just putting on a pair of slacks and going to work, that wasn't cool. And then the music was coming out. The rap music was coming out. And rap music as by itself is okay. But some of the lyrics in the music was very negative toward black people. And I think that was part of it. There's some other factors involved. But it was not cool just to go to work, get your job, and do the things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to try to look out for yourself and look over other people, kind of. And I think that helped shape things around. Jewish people, they didn't have music coming out like that for them. English people, Ireland people, they didn't go through that. But we had been from Africa. We didn't have money. Every other ethnic group, they gave free land for them out in the West, just for them to move up there. Black folks didn't get no free land. I mean, it's a lot of things that affected us, that really affected us. And I was just reading Kamala Harris. I was just reading her book. And the life expectancy of blacks and whites are still different. The life expectancy of their education, everything is different. And we got to do something about it. I could say anything about the Jewish people that I want to say about it. But one thing I want to say, they passed their story on about the Holocaust. And when we start talking about the slavery or segregation, and you know, people tell us, get over it, that's done, it's through. Jewish people tell their young ones, the people that come after them, because they don't want that Holocaust to happen again. We are not telling that story enough to enough of our people.
Our young people.
They need to hear it. Some of the old folks need to hear it.
Yeah.
Some of them are lost.
Yeah.
I mean, we had mass meetings, and you had people like Van J. Malone and so many others speak at it. Bill Randall was about half preacher.
I know.
You know, you had people just telling you what to do and explaining the situation, explaining what happened. But now nobody is doing that. I heard a preacher preaching in the church the other day. Don't you keep talking about black folks? He said, but black folks kill each other more than anybody else, which is true. But they still put out a lot of positive stuff and negative stuff about black people, and we got to somehow lift it up, and we have to somehow turn around. You go to the Bibb County Jail right now, you will find 80%. My numbers might be off a little, but the percent of people
it's more like 85 or 90.
Right, in jail are black people.
Yeah.
Do we commit more crimes? I don't think so. But what happened is, at one time, white folks sell drugs. Black folks sell drugs. And sometimes black folks are selling drugs on Mumford Avenue in front of everybody that they go by.
Right.
You know, and doing things like that. And then the black person go to jail for using crack cocaine. White person go to jail for using powder cocaine. The black person get twice as much time as the white person.
Right. Right.
And when they go to a doctor, that's something Kamala Harris was talking about. They go to a doctor, they automatically do screening. She had a survey of things on white patients. A lot of those things they should do, they don't do it on black people. She has it broken down.
Right. Right.
So we have to do something to encourage people to go to school, get education,
Right.
and all those kind of things. And we got to
So
remember.
what's your suggestion for young people in the community as we wrap up? You got 30 seconds.
Get a job, look for a job, or create your own business. You got to. It's no quick way to get rich. If you take the Ruth Hartley Mosley, rich. Albert Dillon, rich. If you work and you save. Lonzie Edwards, that guy made a lot of money.
I know.
He bought buildings that nobody else wanted.
Right.
Then he turned around and sold them to Channel 41 and get a ton of money. I mean, you have to think. You want to change your life, you have to change your thinking. If you keep doing the same thing that you've been doing, you're going to keep getting the same results. You got to change and you got to read. Nelson Mandela, when he was in jail, he read, he studied. Martin Luther King, if you ever have time to read his letter from Birmingham when he was in jail. You could learn so much in jail. If you're in the military, you're in a situation like I was in. Read. Reading opens doors. It opened doors. They can't take that from you. They can't take that away from you. Right. They can't take that away from you.
Well, I want to express my deepest appreciation for you. You know, not because you're on this show, but because of what you've done over the years, because of your continued interest in the community, because you think it would not be robbery to recognize all of these people, and you do it every day on Facebook and try to, let me say this quickly, though we're out of time. I think what you do is a model for what more of us should do as it relates to the use of social media. You know, I don't care whether you had hamburgers or pork chop for lunch or dinner, but I do care if you can impart some positive information about education. And we're going to talk to a young man from the Hope Center when we finish. I mean, everybody ought to make it their business to at least make 2 or 3 positive educational posts in a week like you do. And I think that can impact the entire community. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Have an interview, Mr. Herbert Enoch. Thanks for all you do, man.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Have a great day.